Why so serious, everybody? I hope that you've listened to Sean and Carter Have a Podcast number 48, where we talked about Batman Begins and dun dun dun, The Dark Knight Rises. Which, by the way, I guess I hadn't opened my DVD before we watched it this time. I guess I saw it 3 times in theaters, and then I had not seen it since, except probably on display TVs at like Circuit City or something. I didn't realize that the jacket of The Dark Knight is the Dark Knight himself, and on the inside is the Joker, and the back of the jacket has been graffitied all over it by the Joker, and that's kind of fun, and it might actually be the best thing about the special edition, which I will talk about more in a little bit. So I wanted to talk about the Dark Knight specifically because on the podcast we covered the characters, because I think one of the most interesting things that has come out of this new trilogy that Christopher Nolan has directed is we've gotten real people inside of a comic book movie. And that's something that I don't think has really happened except for the past 10 years. I would point to X-Men and forward as kind of the branching point for movies that treat comic book characters like real people. I think before that we were kind of in a sillier, like, bam, whiz, pow kind of mentality where it was very cartoonish, and that was fine. Like, I would say, like, Scott Pilgrim is an homage to those kind of comic book movies. And in fact, that might be the best example of a comic book adapted to a movie that I can possibly think of. Carter, why haven't you watched Scott Pilgrim yet? So I wanted to talk some about the actual presentation of the movie, because I think The Dark Knight definitely deserved to be nominated for Best Picture. I'm glad it was. I don't know if it technically should have won, but I'm glad that it was nominated, considered along with some other great movies that year as one of the best films that was released that year. I completely agree. Completely agree. One of the things I want to talk about specifically is Wally Pfister. Feaster, I don't know how to say his last name. I will link him in the info. Wally has worked with Chris Nolan on every movie Nolan has shot since Memento. He's been the director of photography, which basically means not only is he the man who's in charge of what the camera sees, he is the one who really is responsible for the way they shoot things. And especially in Batman and Inception, that's really important because Chris Nolan likes to do things practical. He likes to do things without CGI as much as possible. So then it is all placed on the shoulders of the DP to figure out how to shoot whatever is in Chris Nolan's crazy mind. Specifically, I would think of the weightless hallway scenes in Inception. Those are done without CG. There might be CG elements added, but the actual zero gravity effect, that is a practical effect. They built a vertical hall. We'll talk about this more when we talk about Inception. They built a vertical hallway and shot down it with the camera, so you get the forced perspective of looking down a hallway. And then they also did all kinds of crazy things with speeding up and slowing down the footage to make it look as if things were moving in a certain way. It's amazing. Batman, The Dark Knight is no exception. I would point to the centerpiece for the movie and for the DP. This is the part he's going to put in his portfolio. Is the car chase at night when they're transporting Harvey Dent, the perceived Batman, when they're transporting him in the SWAT car and he's being pursued by the Joker and all of his goons. That scene is some of the best footage in the whole movie as far as how hard it probably was to shoot. And there's one shot in particular that when I saw it in the theater, actually I think it was spoiled in the trailer, which sucks because it's one of the best shots in the movie. One of the best shots is the tractor trailer flipping over. And the first time I saw it, I was like, well, that's cool, but it's probably like Michael Bay stuff. They probably just, CG'd it up. No, turns out they did not CGI that scene. That is a real 50-foot trailer flipping over. And that's why it looks amazing. A lot of the awesome effects in The Matrix, like the fighting effects, were all done practically. And I think that has served as a guide for kind of the action movie of the 21st century. It's really nice to be able to get the actual actors in the scene to do the action. That's what they learned from The Matrix. And that's what they've done here. You want to flip a truck? Okay, get a real truck. We'll figure out how to flip it. And they did. One of my qualms with the movie is actually some of the technology that Bruce uses. He's got one thing that I like, though. He's got things that I don't like and things that I do like. One of the things that I like is the bat suit. In the first movie, they intentionally shot the bat suit very dark because it was a costume and they didn't want it to look fake. It was supposed to look like armor, and for the most part, it does. The seams don't really show. But in The Dark Knight, they wanted to make sure that he could do things that Batman in the entire franchise of Batman has not been able to do, specifically turning his head. That cowl always presents a huge problem for the actor wearing it. He can't maneuver. He has to do this thing where he moves his whole shoulders. And in The Dark Knight, they finally found a suit that still is a piece of body armor, but it was maneuverable. And for that reason, what's his face? Christian Bale did not have to gain nearly as much muscle because he was going to be more agile in The Dark Knight. And second of all, they were able to use the actual suit in the movie. So every time you see the suit in that case in his little Fortress of Solitude, and then you see it on him, that's the same suit. It is the exact same suit, and it is actually body armor. It is a real practical thing. That's cool. What's not cool, and I'm glad we didn't really talk about this on the podcast because we would have just sounded whiny. I'll just sound a little whiny here. I have a major complaint about the Bat Pod. I don't care that it's part of the Batmobile, which does seem a little silly the way that it pops out. My major problem is that thing is not maneuverable. The coolest thing about the Tumbler is it is a bridge builder. Like, the thing that it actually does in real life is it jumps chasms and creates bridges. That's why in the first movie, he's able to traverse on rooftops, and it's not really that weird, because that car is meant to do that kind of crazy stuff. It makes sense for the Batman to have a car that behaves that way. So when he gets on the Bat Pod, here it is, by the way, when he gets on this thing, and you start seeing him tear down the road, yes, it looks cool, but then you start seeing him turning, and you're like, he can't maneuver at all in that thing. Like, he can just do this because the tires are so big and fat that the most that he can move at any time is like 5 degrees. And they never make it that he has to turn suddenly at any point except when he does the 180 turn on the wall, which I was like, okay, really? That's really it for my complaints about the film. Technically, it's amazing. As I said, it deserved to be nominated for Best Picture. My problem was the Bat Pod was silly. Now, I have a problem with this thing. Like I said, I hadn't opened this until we watched it this go-around. And when I received it, I think I got it for Christmas or something. When I received it as a gift, I looked at this big block of special features. I was like, sweet, I can't wait to watch all the special features and see all the behind the scenes. These things are crap, man. There are 2 behind the scenes features that are okay. They're both like between 10 and 15 minutes long. They're nothing that in-depth. Like, I was really hoping for a breakdown of that car chase scene, but there's nothing in there. In fact, they spend about 10 minutes talking about the freaking Bat Pod, which just made me tear my hair out because I'm like, that's the one part of the movie I don't like. Stop talking about it. And then the other things that they have are the scenes that were shot in IMAX. They've removed the letterbox so that you can watch it on your very small TV and pretend that it's an IMAX. And they have 6 episodes of Gotham Tonight, which is the show that's on the TV that every so often you see. They have the actual episodes on here. Woohoo! Nothing that special. So I was really disappointed that this is the special edition and it's barely got anything. I bet that there is or is going to be a special edition with way more stuff. So I'm sure most of you watching this, I would guess 99% of you, have seen The Dark Knight and like the movie. It's really hard not to like the movie. What I would recommend to you, if you have great interest in this kind of movie and you have not seen it, is the film Heat, which is one of my only movies on Blu-ray. Heat was made in 1990, I should have checked this before, 1995. And just like The Dark Knight, it is insanely long. This movie is almost 3 hours long, but it is worth it, I promise. It's the same kind of setup. Dark Knight is really structured like a heist movie. And one of the things that works really well is you get to follow the bad guy through the movie. Well, Heat does the exact same thing. Al Pacino is the good guy. Robert De Niro is the bad guy, so is Val Kilmer. He's with Robert De Niro. And you really get, it's like split 50-50, the time that you spend with these 2 characters, to the point that I don't know if you're ever rooting for the Joker at any point in the movie, but every time he's on the screen, you just want to keep watching it. You don't want it to cut back to Batman. You're like, no, I want the guy with the makeup. That's the way that you feel about Robert De Niro. You actually kind of end up rooting for him in the movie, even though he's the bad guy. And this has the same, I would say, technical aspirations. Like, it's just a technically very sound film. The sound video quality is amazing, even for 1995. I wouldn't say that was that long ago, but it's up there with like Terminator 2. And one of the best things about this, and maybe it's because it's the Blu-ray edition or whatever, but this has special features like out the wazoo. First of all, it has director's commentary. This has no commentary at all. Second, it has 11 cut scenes. This has no cut scenes. And third, it has 5 documentaries that I've watched and are very interesting. And this just has features that feel like they're practically ads for the movie that they might show on like some random cable channel as the movie was being released to try and get you interested in the movie. These don't feel like that. These actually feel like breakdowns and analyses. But yeah, I highly recommend, especially if you like Dark Knight or other action movies and you haven't seen this, this is an action epic. Very well done. I would love to hear what your opinion is on it, if you've seen it or if you're going to watch it. That's it. Sorry for talking so long about movies, but that's what I do. I'll see you next time. Click.